Manoj Joshi. He's a distinguished fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. He's joining us from New Delhi. Mr. Joshi, thank you very much for being with us here on TRT World. Just initially, let's try and clear up if we can, and you give me your opinion. Why has India made such a mess of this inevitable second wave?
Well, I would say that it was overweening arrogance on the part of the government. They got the advice, they simply didn't listen to it. It's basically inherent unscientific or anti-scientific attitude at the level of the political leadership.
And as Melinda was laying out in her package there, it's not just the Indians, the billion or so Indians that are affected, it's the entire region. What's being done to try and stop the spread of the virus outside of India's borders?
Well, right now, virtually nothing can be done, meaning the state capacity is in a shambles, meaning the state can't even look after citizens in its own national capital. So I think expecting the state to do anything with regard to its neighbors is expecting too much.
Mr. Joshi, just clear up for me if you can, because I'm struggling to understand how, with the numbers that India is seeing at the moment, there hasn't been a national strategy put in place. Just lay out for us why there is such difficulty in getting a national strategy implemented.
Well, you know, in the phase one, the union government, meaning the government in New Delhi, was running the show. And they were issuing instructions. They had called for the big lockdown in March last year. But subsequently, they simply dropped the ball, if I may put it that way. As I said, they were given the advice about phase two. They did not invest. They should have invested money in expanding vaccine production, in expanding oxygen production. You had to put down money for it. You had to plan for it. I have a feeling that the expertise that they had assembled was simply too weak or incompetent, or that they gave the advice and the government simply didn't listen.
I think what the Indian example shows us, and of course we're still in the middle of this, so we won't be able to learn the lessons from it properly yet, but just the power of leadership and the importance of leadership. There was a time maybe a month or so ago when the messaging was coming out of the Indian government that it was people not adhering to social distancing rules and not wearing masks, etc., that was the cause of the rise in cases. Do you think that the messaging has been right from the Indian government to its people?
Well, I think the messaging broadly has been right in the sense that all the mainstream leaders and the mainstream government figures have been saying distancing and masking and things like that. But then to participate in a huge election where people gather to have a huge religious rally, essentially these were political decisions. And these political decisions, the politicians needed to take those decisions. I think they simply were not, what should I say, were either not adequately advised, or they simply refused to consider this. Basically, as I said, there is an unscientific bent of mind at the top echelons of the Indian political leadership.
Okay, Manoj Joshi from the Observer Research Foundation. We'll have to leave it there. Do appreciate your analysis, sir. Thanks for being with us.